Space City. Yes, Space City. So, yeah. And the fronts can be pushed. Now,
So what's the timeline? Like some people, for some people can't see anything. Can't see trees that.
see the trees.
That's what my wife did for a whole time. She put the hurricane shutter. I didn't see it. She said, "You want to be out in it." I said, "Yes, I do." But see it. She said, she said, oh, for hurricane. Yeah, that had a great fire. Um, got ours. We went right after that. So when the hurricane came, then she said it was worth it. Right? I didn't have to say, I told you so. Things that was scary. I will, I thought that I'm that I'm for yeah, and see, because it is a right. Well, I get that anyway. I get that. Yeah,
Jobs they've had.
yeah. He usually
That's what's interesting too. What jobs they've done, or what they, if they,
well. There's I think we should report that 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 a lot of stuff was suspended briefly during transition. So so that they go, well, what was knows what they'll say. Just say it's a lot of work was suspended. I'll pick up anything that was done out of. Jimmy Burns.
You're sweating, John.
I walked over. This morning was nice.
Yes.
Yeah.
Last week noticed that I had a line that it over. So this morning, I had and I put and find
In your home?
Yes.
Wow, that's it sounds like the beginning of a science fiction movie.
That's what I want to call it.
Wait, what?
Yeah,
What am
exactly.
I supposed to do?
I have something.
Okay.
Just. Something. That tree.
You should have told me I have
Right
about
out
5 or
here.
6.
On the.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, man.
You see,
Yeah.
we can see it. Squirrel. I thought I'd throw that. So cool. Every time I get a shot. But all it is there's
You get that
squirrel
result.
living in this. And I would. Sunday. Yes. And. I don't know if you need to mention that. I don't also know that we need to hang out. I don't think.
You can check with the people.
Well,
You had that one.
you know, it's like when you these days start thinking of all list of things, you know, somebody's got dead, you know, they should be just so there's some things. Yeah. But I don't think it's swirl. Yeah. Look, do you need?
Anybody else when I was
Testing, 1, 2, testing, 1, 2.
Yes.
Testing, 1, 2.
No, we have 6 minutes. Oh, go ahead.
Wait, Brian's saying it right here. How many minutes do you have?
It's a good idea.
What is that?
Set it to 2 minutes.
Okay.
Dial them up and when it's
Set
in.
it to. Mark, set it to. Mark, set it to
A balloon or.
1 minute, 50 seconds. And just like in boxing, it's a 2 minute, this will be a 2 minute round. And the last 10 seconds, you hear this. That's to alert the boxer he's got 10 seconds to beat the heck out of the person.
Yeah.
Because the bell's gonna ring. I like.
So yeah, you set it, and
It's loud enough to, I mean, in a room with
so you can set
6
it,
people on one end,
yeah,
it's
set
loud enough.
set the 2 minutes and just hit the top of it.
And they can see.
yeah, they could watch it. That's great, I like that.
Ralph, you said that one time before.
Now, somebody's inquiring about the Zoom.
Testing, 1, 2, testing.
Somebody. Can they do? So just tell them to go to the last. No, they should. You didn't. Yeah. I think my email. It's the same.
Are you trying to
Okay.
figure out how to, like, turn that down or?
Remember.
Okay, now can you hear me? In the back?
Yes.
Okay. So I called the meeting to order already. Thank you for coming. We have got a fairly robust agenda for tonight, and we're going to go ahead and try and move along with it. The first thing I'm going to do is just summarize what we just talked about in the executive meeting. We had a couple of things that we were talking about. We were talking about the replacement of one person who has resigned from the board, and we've decided on that. We talked about some of the issues as far as the office goes, Joy's position and the work she's doing. And we talked a little bit about the maintenance areas that we're trying to deal with. You know, most of the things that we're dealing with right now are still a little bit up in the air, but we've got a couple of things in mind. What else did we talk about? Do what? Right. One of the things that we talked about was the position that Joy is filling is an interim position. It's an it's association property manager. And she has agreed to do that on an interim basis, 90 days, and it can be extended 90 more days. What she's trying to do is figure out if it's a job that she really wants to do. It's also something that we're looking at to see if there's any changes that we need to make. In order for her to do the work that needs to be done, she needs help. And we talked this evening about potentially looking at a temp to come in and help, so that we can spread some of the tasks around for her. Anything else that y'all can think of in the executive? Okay. Okay, our next thing that we need to do, we've got 4 different sets of minutes that need to be approved. Everybody got the minutes, and so what we're going to do is we're going to either approve or disapprove the minutes, all 4 sets at one time, and not read them all the way through. So I need for someone to make a motion to approve all of the minutes.
Can I make a motion to approve all 4 sets of minutes?
Okay. Is there a second? Okay. Any discussion about that? Okay, let's vote. Okay, all right, so that's good. We have it on the agenda, we have the association managers report. It's a little hard for us to do that because Joy's actually in the hospital now. So we're not able to really have her do a report. What we're going to do is Matt is going to do some of the information, correct? And I'm going to do a little bit of it. Oh, okay, sorry. Okay, I'm sorry, I skipped one of the steps. We are going to go ahead and vote for the person who is replacing Rolf on the board. And that position will go until May, when we have the homeowners meeting, and we'll vote on everybody again. Okay, our person that we decided on is April. Are you here, April? You want to stand up? April Schneider. April will fill in the vacant position on the board for Ralph, and we'll do it on that short-term basis until May. Okay,
Should I make a motion?
please.
Can I make a motion? April Schneider. A second.
Okay, any discussion? Okay, shall we vote? Okay, that's passed. All right, thank you for bringing that back up to me. Okay, Matt, do you want to do your presentation and what you can,
I thought if it's okay,
can you do this?
I can do that, but if it's okay with you, I'll do it as part of the report.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yes.
Okay. But I'm not up for the marina report yet. I'll do it when we do.
We'll just do it.
All right. Okay, we're going to just do it. Anyway, here we go. The part that I am going to address is let's see where I can find it. The part of the manager's report that Rick often addresses is the marina arrears, and we have a few, and I'll report more on the marina itself, but there are a number, the Sea Scouts are still in arrears. There are a couple other boats that now I consider fall into the category of a derelict, because the owners have said, we're not going to pay anymore, but we're ending our boat there. Okay. Which is somewhat, and I was looking for that figure that I had on it. Oh, I put it in this report because I was going to do it that way. All right. The marina arrears are now like 8,468, and last time they were 7,795. Strangely enough, is there isn't a whole lot you can do about it if they just stop paying, and you can kind of try to force them to leave, and otherwise we have to pay somebody to haul their boat away, which can be as much as $5,000 a boat. So, which has kind of led me to somewhat think that we need to, when a boat comes in, it should be in pretty good shape, or they're going to have to leave a very large deposit that will cover that end of it, should that come up. And I've seen some of the boats that have come in that we've accepted because we needed the money, but they end up being, these derelict boats. And there's other boats that have been here for as long as I've been here, and they don't get any better, and nobody's fixing them up. But I just understand that it takes a lot of money to cut a boat up, and if they're not worth anything, there are a lot of problems with it. We'll try to fix that, but that's my part of the manager's report, is those arrears. And some suggestions that I might have is how we can fix that on the front end. So that when somebody comes in, we don't just say, yeah, okay, we've got an empty slip and we need the money. We should look at them, you know, more so and saying, I don't know, how can we be certain that you'll continue paying and things like that? Okay. Oh, sorry.
Is there anything being done to address the liveaboards that are here? Now that we have a new boat, we've got a marina. We're seeing tons of liveaboards when we're down. I don't believe that we're not supposed to have liveaboards.
That was Keith Gibson asked me, because you were on the mic. Okay. And I almost didn't get the liveaboards part. Okay, yes, they're not allowed. And as far as I'm concerned, if anybody spots a liveaboard and you know, like it, or something that's suspect, just let me know. Okay.
What's the time that they can be on their boat?
I don't know that. The question Brenda had was, what is the time that they can be on their boat that would not be a liveaboard, but might be a overnight sort of thing? That distinction, that would be your question? And I don't have an answer to that. I can find out. So in answer to that, I'm fine with setting myself up here, but anybody that sees anything that looks like something like that is going on, all you have to do is let me know and I will go check it out one way or another. My wife says that trouble seems to find me when in the marina anyway. So I might as well go looking for it, but I'm more than happy to check it out. I might as well check it. I'm more than happy to do that. I feel that I would be the first person that ought to be notified. Does that answer? Okay. And then I'll try to figure out and find out what the time is. Okay.
I'm Carrie, I'm 3, and when we rent a boat slip at the marina, do we get the documentation of the owner's insurance and title?
Yes. You're welcome. Any other questions about this part? Oh,
Yeah, about the boat that was abandoned, basically. Are you allowed, are we allowed to declare it? That's too much. Declare it like a salvage situation and then we can sell it? Or
good question. And this, when Rick had told me that there is a path that you can take. It's very extensive and time consuming, and it might even be financially consuming. But if you go through the Parks Department, they have a thing of going about it. And if they give up, you know, we can look into it, but it's a very lengthy process. That's what I've heard. Okay, I haven't looked into it. 6 months. Okay, and so. And then the boat has to be worth something too. Okay. Does that help?
yes, it does. But in the name of you and I finding trouble, you know, is it illegal to go take a boat and just drop it somewhere?
I will not answer that question, and not that the idea hasn't come across a number of people's minds. Okay, and it would seem to me that one way or another, as long as it wasn't a hazard to navigation in some fashion, if we could form a reef someplace, that would be fine. But I'm just saying that out loud because, other than that, it's very difficult, strangely enough, to handle something like that.
Okay. This is the tennis membership summary.
It's almost slides. Can you? On that.
Okay. I'm going to go ahead and read this to you. What? Do what? It's part of the association manager report. Yeah, yeah. I'm making it a report. Okay, we have a total of, for the year, we have a total of 15 new members in the tennis program. And paying members as of August are 24. And we are under budget. No, I'm sorry, we're over budget. We have an income for August of $3,099.58. And the budgeted amount was 2905. So we are under budget. I won't be able to answer any questions about it. Okay. We're going to do the committee reports. Kay, are you ready? Do you want to use this one?
We don't have pictures this time.
So switch, it needs to be turned up, need to hold a closer one. There's no switch to turn.
There's no switch?
No.
All right. There we go.
Very easy, it's closer or farther.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, the first one is 18142 Bal Harbor Drive. And the request is to remove sliding glass doors on all 3 levels on the canal side of the home. The homeowner wants to replace them with double pane glass doors with full length side lights. And exterior frames will be painted Bal Harbor gray. That project has already been completed. And we did approve a project in April where they extended their deck, and they didn't then mention the doors, but they look fine now. They've been replaced nicely and the color is appropriate for that building. So the committee recommends approval as submitted on the door request.
Does anybody have any questions for Kay about this one? No. Do you all approve it? You move it? Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Is there a second? Any questions, any discussion? We'll vote. Okay.
All right. The second one is 2734 Lighthouse. And that's the picture I gave you to go with it. This request is to install a generator, a Generac standby home generator. And the homeowner has provided a lot of information. And what we'll do first is look at the two locations that do you all have that where it's option A and B?
Yeah.
Good. He's working with the city of Nessa Bay to permit, and they just need an approval of location from the HOA. So if either of these locations are not favorable, he has a third option for a portable generator. But let's start with the locations. Good. So option A, your picture is the stairway. Oh, let me explain. I asked him, why isn't he putting it in the back of his house on the lakeside? And he said the generator people advised against that. So because of hurricanes and the water and they said it would be more protected in the front. But anyway, his option A is near the stairs in the front of his house at the back of the carport. And that's the picture I put there so you can see. There's a concrete slab right there. And it's open at the back, so it wouldn't be contained under that. He knows that it has to be 2 feet up, and he's going to get an elevation report to see how much farther it needs to be raised. But if it goes above the stairs, which are 6 feet, I think, then he said he won't do that. Okay. But either way, if it is there, it's going to be closed in with siding to match his house. So that it would just be a wall. And it would be behind, in his carport, so to speak, behind. I'm just sorry we don't have a picture. It would have been clearer. Oh, sorry. So that's option A. And then B would be in his side yard by his driveway between his townhome and the neighbors, right there on the lot line. And in the picture I gave you, there's a sago palm and a tree, but that's gone. The rough looking picture with the grass. And there again, it would be enclosed. So the architectural committee went and we looked at that and felt that of those two options, A, at the back of the carport would be far more feasible than putting it out in the yard that's so close to his neighbor's home. Do you have a question?
No, I just recall a homeowner being denied a generator a few years back because they wanted to put it right in front of their home, out in the middle of it, and was denied for that reason. So I would say that, yeah, I just wanted to bring up the historical aspect. That has been denied previously, that position.
That's correct. Yes, it has been, and that's why the committee, if of the two, would recommend approval for A, that's going to be behind a wall. And even then, like I said, the city's going to come and look at it to permit it. And either one of, well, let me just stop there to begin with and see what you think before we move on.
I had a question.
Yes.
From reading this, it sounds like the homeowner prefers option A. Is that correct?
Well, he actually preferred option B,
Oh, okay.
out on the grass,
Okay.
but it just didn't look good to me leaning that close to the neighbor's house. And that home is rented. Nobody's in it right now. So, it wasn't discussed with that neighbor because nobody's living there. Exactly. It might be a surprise. Yes.
I'm still confused. I see the picture.
Yes.
This is a,
Yes.
and it was sitting out.
It would be
How's that not for the?
That one that I gave.
Let's see.
That shouldn't be that. It would be on this
This
side.
picture. Seems to be this area right here. Seems to be this area. Yeah, but that's just forward. Is that option three?
That's B.
Oh, no, B was, well, maybe it was. But B is, B seems, the description seems like it's good. Yeah, because. Or maybe that was a picture of somebody who put it on the side, but they, she said in this picture, this tree and this city are not there. And it's still implicit, right? That's the line. With our Or that would be good. Yeah, that would be good. This is the part. And my own concern is that that exhaust has to be so.
Oh, one interesting thing that I should have said first. In 2021, there was an update to the property code for HOAs, and we cannot deny totally. I mean, you have to approve a generator, depending on where they put it, of course. But I mean, we're not allowed anymore to reject and tell somebody, no, they can't have one. So,
No, I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
I was never in favor of rejecting.
no,
Yeah, okay, good.
Did you say that the homeowner is leaning towards A or B?
he said either way, he just needs to meet with the city. And if either of those locations are okay, then he will show that as a possibility to them. If you don't want it there, I can talk about the portable.
So his car is gonna be in there, and then there's the generator.
My only question, is that all these generators, their exhaust has to be a certain distance from any combustible material, and this, and he has to get it passed with the city code. And I know that we don't deal with codes. That would be my only question, and have a question of any neighbor who wanted to put it. We had when we put ours up, we put it. That's the biggest thing, is that you don't want it to be a fire risk.
Absolutely, and that's the good news about using the city.
Uh-huh.
And our bylaws say that you have to use a professional,
Good.
a registered contractor. However, well, I won't get into that. That'll be for next time. Not everybody's doing that, which is making it difficult, but those people will follow the code. I did go to the Generac website because a lot of their things say follow the specifications.
Right.
Well, on your Generac sheet, it shows me sizes and such, but nowhere did it say anything about distances and all. So I went on their website and it referenced the fire code. And I did make a copy of that, and it has to be, 5 feet and 3 feet and all that.
Right.
But I feel pretty good about it if it is installed professionally and if the city approves it. But if either of those aren't,
He hasn't gotten any feedback from the city at all.
yeah, I mean, they're ready to go. They need to know the place to put it. They have to have the HOA's approval first.
Okay.
Another quick question.
So it looks like option B puts it right on the property line with his neighbor. Is that true, or is this a?
That's right.
So has he talked with his neighbor? How does his neighbor feel about
No,
that?
nobody's living there. It's empty right now. It's a rental. It's
Yeah,
owned, yes,
Yeah, but
but
he
he
hasn't-
maybe needs to talk to the owner if he wants, but
sure,
it's right
absolutely.
out there for all the world to
Yeah,
see.
so I
Uh-oh.
don't think
Where's my
option,
chili?
yeah, I don't think option B is a good choice for that reason. So,
He referenced the one right across the street. It's at the side of the townhome at 2731, I think. Is that yours? And it's fenced. And it's at the side though, right? It's not your front yard. So
Okay. Do you- Do you all have an opinion? Yeah,
Well, I don't see any problem with option A. If it's, cut back as long as it follows code and, there's no sort of potential fire hazard.
okay. Do you all have any objections to option A? Okay, so let's vote. Everybody's okay with that? Okay. But we do want to, we do want to know that the city permitting has been done, especially since it's rather complicated. Thank you.
I'll make a note of that on here and they'll let him know.
Did we vote? We'll vote. Okay. Okay.
And lastly, uh, 2806 Lighthouse is replacing 3 existing patio doors on the back of the house facing the lake. One set of doors is located on the first floor, meaning the ground, and remaining 2 doors will be located on the second floor. The replacement doors include 2 sets of sliding 4-panel doors. That's on the second level. And 1 set of 2-panel gliding doors downstairs. No, yes, the 2 doors up, 1 big down. Now, the funny thing is, if the exterior color is white, and look at those pictures, and they're white, and they look like 4 doors. So I contacted the gentleman and I said, well, it looks like you've already done the work. Anyway, he was very kind and he said, what are you talking about? And I said, oh, well, I was hoping he hadn't done the work because the doors should have been brown to begin with because the whole building is bronze windows, but these are white, very bright white. But this was before him, prior owner. So that kind of makes it interesting because our bylaws is confusing. You know, it tells us what front doors can be, but then it says exterior doors, all other exterior doors must be painted as original. You know, it could be white, it could be brown, but it depends on what it was to begin with. So his are white now. So
Do we know were they white before?
he he's moved in. He's only seen white doors. So anyway, we on the committee talked about it and said it's going to be up to you all, but we, since they're already white, just recommended approval for the new doors to be white facing the lake. But help.
Leave this one.
I'll just,
That's what matters
I have
most.
a comment. I'm doing this as a recollection, but this issue has come up before. And when you drive through the neighborhood, you can see a number of doors, especially if they're rear doors that are white. Okay. And it just seems to me this has come up before and it's been acceptable because there's already a lot of ones that are already white. And that's, like I said, that's the recollection. And I personally don't have any problem with them being white. I mean, myself.
If we're on the front of the house, on the lake side, nobody sees it but boats. It might be a different thing. Well, thank you. No,
So
no,
Kay,
I don't either. I'm just saying if we
So-
just always have to think if you do it for one, then the next person's going to want that.
so Kay, I had a question. Yeah, did Joy provide the architectural form from the previous owner if the doors were changed in the past?
No, that's my fault. I didn't contact her soon enough and she's in the hospital.
Yeah, right.
But she said Wednesday she would check. I don't remember approving it and I've been on this committee for 12 years,
Okay.
but that doesn't
Yikes.
mean anything.
So
Yeah, I know, my doors on our house is white and they've always been that way since we bought the place. So thinking about a lot of the other doors on the canal side that I've seen, a lot of them are white. So to me, I don't think it's a big deal one way or another. The design is really good too. So it didn't look like it took away from the house whatsoever.
Do you all want to accept that as, yeah,
I'll make a motion to accept it.
okay, okay. Is there any discussion? I think one of the things that we probably need to look at is what the architectural guidelines are, and maybe we need to make some changes in that so that it's, because there isn't really any point in going through this if we're always going to make exceptions. So we might as well go ahead and look at that. So we'll try to do that.
Yeah.
But did I have a second?
Yes.
Okay. Did you all vote? Okay. Okay. Okay, so that,
But no, because I want to see the architectural forms from the previous owner.
okay,
For now, I'm voting no.
okay, okay. So have you got one more?
The last one was tabled. There's one more on the agenda. Yes. The homeowner wants to wait till next time, next meeting.
Okay.
Is there one more? Yeah. 18109 Sandy Cove for the generator. We're going to wait until next meeting.
Okay. Kay, do you want to do your thing now or do you want to wait till new business?
Tired, I'll wait.
Okay. Matt, did you have anything else?
Yeah, finance.
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 Yes.
Mark?
We are.
Okay, for finance, just keep in mind, again, these financial, this financial information is based on July the 30th data. So just keep that in mind. We're already through August and we're still looking at July, but that is common because we don't close our books until, here in the next few days on August. So we're always going to be lagging a month or 6 weeks behind, but this is for the month of July again. And the one thing I want to point to you at the top, you'll see some red. We got green and red. Green's good, red's not so good. The red on our expenses for July was higher, was over our budget, mostly because of marina work and cleanup. So if you remember in July, we had a lot of work done, repair work done on the marina, actually. We had cleanup done by contractors in the community, but the biggest portion of that was marina work. And 75% of that we're building back to Nassau Bay under the EDC grant. So we should be able to get, in fact, I just saw we delivered it today to Nassau Bay to get payment for at least, if I remember, it's actually 30,000, a little over 30,000 right now. I don't know if we got all of it from Nassau Bay, but a lot of this we'll be able to get refunded for it for July. Next slide, Lori, if you could slip to the year to date. Again, you'll see red and green. We've been running very favorable year to date on income, mostly because of slip rentals. If you remember, slip rentals have been real strong this year. There's other favorable income that we've had on CD interest has been higher than budget. As an example, fees that we charge, transfer fees, resale certificates that we boosted I think that was last year. We're seeing the benefit of that against the budget. On the negative side of that, most of that I just talked about is rebillable. So we should be net close to favorable when we recover some of our reimbursement money from Nassau Bay. So those are the big things we know about capital expenditures. On the budget items, we've been deferring because we've got a bill pending with Payne Brothers to pay for bulkhead work. We're at the point now where we can start to see when we start closing out the end of that project, what kind of funds we have in balance to determine if we can get some work done for the end of the next budget cycle, which, by the way, is end of October. So we're coming up to the end of a budget cycle. Next month, we'll be talking about what that budget looks like for next year. But right now, we're just looking at what we've got remaining in capital to spend and how much time we've got before the end of the budget cycle to spend it. Roofs come to mind right now. There's some roof jobs we need to get caught up on. And I think that's going to be one of our big priorities coming in, not only the next couple of months, but here in the next first part of the year. We should be trying to get some of our roof program back up to our normal replacement pattern. Okay. Next slide, Laura, if you could. Reserves. This is a total reserves. We have our reserves are two parts. They are capital and they're operating reserves. The operating reserves each year get spent down for the most part. There's things like big insurance payments that we do, like property liability, audit fees, big expenses through the course of the year. We budget for those via our operating reserves. So they get spent down to almost to zero at the end of the budget year, or they should. And then the capital reserves are what we should be carrying a good balance or a healthy balance on. Our capital reserves, if you see the green bar in the back, got the blue ones, and the green ones are the current uh, bars for the, are the total capital or reserve bars. You'll see that I've got a tag on the top of that of 147,000. We were $147,000 higher today than we were at the end of, or starting November 1 last year. So we've had some growth in our capital reserves, but it is entirely because we deferred capital. So we've got to be very careful with our capital expenses going forward. We all know that. We've got to maintain a balance. We've got to build a balance ideally, but we've got some big costs coming up. And we'll talk about that when we talk about the budget this next coming month. Okay, next slide, Lori, if you could. It's sticking. It's not reacting. Sometimes that works pretty well. Just get out of it and restart it. Should be that one that's on the left there with the, yeah. There we go. Okay, so I'll try to get through these quicker. These are our cash account balances. If you look at the orange bars, especially the last one, which is our total cash balances, we've been getting, this is as of July 31st, we had $147,000 that we booked from our assessment receipts to our operating accounts for the assessment. That number now is well over 600,000, but as of end of July, that's why you see a nice jump on the very end at the far right in the gold orange colored bar. It's a lot higher, but just keep in mind, those aren't budget dollars. Those dollars are dedicated to the bulkhead work. So they will get moved into a specific account just for bulkhead. But if you're counting all of our cash in one bucket, then you would see that as of July 31. I think it's 922,000. So anyway, next slide. Okay, so I committed to do a 5-year look back from one of our meetings in the past, and this goes from 2019 to 2023. There's 2 slides, 5-year span looking back. The first one is income less operating expenses. So this goes to the question of how well do we manage our budget from an operating perspective. And you'll see the blue bars are actual, so that's actual income, net income, and the tan colored bars was the budget. That's why you'll see what you'll see underneath are the variances, positive and negative, and red and green. And if you were to add all those up over the 5 years, you would get about a little less than a 3% variance. So it's actually positive if you added all those across 5 years. So what that told me when I looked at this over the last 5 years is the business has done a pretty good job of, staying pretty close, positive or negative to our operating budget. The next slide, Lori. This is capital, and this one gets a little more interesting for me. You'll see some bigger red bars. That's 2021 and 2020. And I got to looking back at what that was. and it was roofs. 2021, we spent $210,000 on just one budget item on roofs by themselves. And in 2020, we spent a lot of that overages roofs and siding and paint. So we had a couple of big years. I don't know exactly what drove us in those years to, other than we're obviously behind on our roof program, but we did spend, the message here is we did spend over our stated budget. So what happens when we do this is it draws down on our reserves. So we wonder why over 5 years we've seen a depletion, a net depletion of reserves. This is like, if I added all those 5 bars across, it was over $200,000. We had a net deficit of about $200,000. We're drawing down reserves to do roofs, siding, paint, and a lot of flat roofs as well. So that's that. And then I don't know if I've got another couple of other things. I just mentioned it. We have a draft budget that we're working on right now. Present that in the meeting here next month. A couple of the big challenges are insurance is huge. It's a big influencer to our budget year over year, and trying to keep it. I like trying to keep things flat or neutral. Our revenues have been growing a little bit, but not drastically or not enough. And we really, because our reserves aren't high enough, really try to stay as neutral as possible. In other words, we shouldn't be spending more ideally than we're putting in the bank. So that's going to be the challenge here for this coming year. How many roofs can we do next year and stay and try to keep our reserves neutral or plus? One of the challenges we have, more to come on that next month. And then there were marina bids we were looking at. Matt, are we still? Okay. Okay. And that's all I got.
Did you need to talk?
I'm up.
All right. Okay, so the Marina report, starting with, we had 2 new leases and 1 moved out. The reason for the move out was storm damage. So numbers wise, for the month, the total lease income was $10,214.80. And that puts us at 143% of what was budgeted. So far, the marina has been doing well from the budget figure that came up with last year. So we're doing fine. As an aside, there was another guy just today that was going up to the lease, and hopefully we'll see him on our next month report. I had touched on the few derelict boats. As far as marina repairs, we have B is pretty much in good shape. It has some open slips that we can move boats into. C, we've restored water, but not power there. And that's the next step. It'll probably happen next week, according to Jimmy. A dock is fine for what it is. We still have a section that's missing that needs to be put back in. There's not a huge hurry to get there because there aren't any boats farther out, although I saw one move back in that was the tri-hull moved back in. So we'll be trying to get out there so that he can walk out to it or something. Okay. Let's see the other. As far as the bids that Mark was alluding to. We have one bid to do the repairs, which Rick had gotten, and which was a pretty much over the top type of amount. And then we had another one by a company that we've dealt with before, and theirs was more in line, more actual, I guess. And I've tried to contact one. I had heard about these kind of problems from Raouf when he was checking in things, and Rick, contacting companies and talking to them, and then they'll say that they'll come out and then they don't, or they don't get back to you. It's a bit of a problem. Especially, I guess, now because everybody's pretty busy. I'm not exactly sure why that is. So, but I've sort of taken that on. It was sort of the job of the property manager, but I'm going to try to do whatever I can on it. And then we have to decide, we have the numbers are the RD deductible is 100,000. And if the repairs come out less than that, then there isn't any point in making a claim. Other than that, that's all we know right now. I'm still trying to dig up more bids, or at least one more, and having a bit of trouble getting that, but I'll stay on it. I think that's just about it. Sorry, any questions? Could you go to the mic, please?
I was under the impression some time ago that our crew was taking care of the marina. Is that not correct?
Well, when you say our crew,
Well, Jimmy, Sid,
Okay.
Bernie, that group.
okay, well, that crew was taking care of the marina in what way? And when? Well, before the storm, yes, they were taking care of the marina.
Right.
Right.
So I've not been out there. I don't know exactly what physically has gone wrong, other than the electricity and the water. Is it just the boardwalks out to the boats, finger piers? I'm not sure.
Oh, I had a pretty good slideshow last meeting of the damage that's done out there. I mean, you can only go out about 20 feet on the sea dock, and the rest of it's impassable.
Oh, we missed the pilings there.
Not pilings, but the boardwalk. The pilings are all pretty much in place. According to Rick, there was maybe a couple of them that might be dealing with. A dock has more boardwalk. That again, but C also lost water and power. And B is pretty much been restored. So it's like I said, I had a slideshow last time. I didn't bring it again because I just figured everybody saw it already. But that's the damage. And the work that you were talking about that the crew is going to handle was repairs that were going to be done to the marina before we had these repairs that now have to be done to the marina, just to get it back up to where it was. And that is the nature of this marina out there. It does not take a punch. When a big wind comes through there, it does a lot of damage. Does that answer your question?
Yes, sir.
Okay, very good. Any other questions?
Rolf, do you want to come up and do your tennis? Use this one or that one?
You kind of covered most of it. Basically, the income to date is $28,666. Things about the course, we still need to fixed court number 1 and 2s are very bad shape, and they're essential to our business with our pro. And also, we had the request from, I had a request from at least 2 new owners. I understand some other people wants to have a tennis ball machine so they can practice on their own. Since there is very few members who want to play with others. So that's gonna be around $900. The board need to consider investing into that. That's what I. Any questions?
Brenda?
House and grounds, we have no request. Sorry.
Okay. We're going to move on to the new business. Mark, do you have anything about the savings account?
Yes, so the question we have. So the question we have in front of us has to do with an existing account we have at Welby Bank that, we've apparently had for a good while. It's a operating contingency account. It only yields about 2%, 0.2% interest on it. So what we want to be able to do is, while we were there, one of the questions the banker had for us was, did we want to switch over to a higher yielding savings account at 2%? That's option 1, of course. But the other thing, 2% didn't sound still very strong to me. And, I think we need to look a little further, maybe at a different bank, and like our assessment funds, they're in a money market of 4.5%. So is there a better place for us to, outside of Welby Bank, is what I'm talking about, of looking to move this money? So that's really what I'd like to be able to do, is do a little more research on even some of the current bankers we have. Maybe they have better offerings than what Welby was able to give us. But one of the reasons they couldn't give us a better rate was because we don't have a checking account there, I think is what she was telling us, and we don't really have a need to have one there. So I just think that the first thing we need to do is make sure, budget wise, we don't need the money from a cash flow perspective. If we don't, we might consider a CD option at a higher percentage rate, or if not, we need to keep it more liquid, then look for a, maybe a better money market yielding account. So that's my current update.
So do we need to do anything now, or you need to do a little bit more information gathering?
Yeah, we need to check with the banks.
Okay. Okay. Okay, so we'll just wait on that and get more information. Okay, you want to talk about your.
Everybody raise your hand at once. Openings on the architectural committee. We have Tom Ring, which has been a really effort for he and Mike moved to New York. So that's, and then come up with and then let's see, Mike Cullum has been on this committee for 12 years, and he is just swamped right now with a lot of new people working on it. So I would like to, at some point, ease my way out, but I'm happy to stay on the transition. If or going to be the one to appoint, that's my plan. The board appoint people. Now, there's been one change in the property. That is a current board member. There's for someone residing in the board member's residence may not be appointed or appointed to this committee. And that's how I inherited it, because we always had a fabulous board member, the architectural committee representative, and then this happened in 2021. And so our person that was working so good, hey. But at any rate, think about it. Because it's not good with one person, you've got to be able to toss it around.
Okay, thank you.
Pretty quiet. Joy, no, if you have a
Kay, do you want to provide us with your contact information so people can get in touch with us and we can pass it on to you?
or just tell Joy, because I'm going to be in contact with her.
Okay, okay. So anybody, if you know anybody who's interested in being on the architectural committee, it is entertaining. I think that's safe.
Ernie's been on there with you. Well, you just,
What?
Joy does a really good job of getting the requests to me and to the committee. And then we physically walk around to look at them. And if the homeowner is available, visit with that person. But mostly it's emailing back and forth. And everything you need to know for bylaws right there online on the homepage at governing documents. So some rainy afternoon when you've got nothing to do, read over that stuff and say, maybe I should do my part. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kay. Okay, we're going to, the next thing that we have under our new business is discussion and voting on vacancy to fill the board secretary position. We're going to table that until the next meeting. Okay, Fred, you want to talk about your
Question, Keith, swap the HDMI cable, or do I need to turn off the projector first before I do that? Whichever my laptop. So I'm hoping that you guys know how to operate the Mac. Yeah, I'm gonna. Full screen.
He's talking.
Maybe I don't know. think what happened is it doesn't like connection to iCloud. So, see if I can. Why don't you go ahead, Jen, and I'll
Okay.
try to get this back up to full screen here.
While Fred's searching, we've got a couple more things. One thing that I wanted to be sure and announce was that we have had another resignation from the board. Barbara has resigned. And so at some point, we'll be looking to fill that position as well. Janice, are you going to present National Night Out? Just whatever the social committees for.
Yes, we met, the social committee got together and I had seen in the newsletter from the Compass Rose from the city that National Night Out is October 1st this year. And we panicked and decided we have to do something. So I registered Windermere for the National Night Out. And we would like everybody to come. And there are a few things that you need to bring with you when you come. It's a chair, and because we don't always have these chairs down here, a chair, what you want to drink, and an appetizer or a snack, because of course we invite the police and the sheriffs and the firemen and the city council, and when they come, they like to eat. So I think we should be very hospitable to them and welcome them and try to have some snacks for them to eat when they come visit. Anyway, we're hoping a lot of people, if you're on Zoom, we're trying to come up with some activities to get the community together. And we sat around and talked, and we discussed the fact that come Halloween, some of us hope that some child will come ring the doorbell. And, you know, we find out that some of the parents and children don't want to come up steps. If you live like in a house like mine, where you have to come up 17 steps to get to the front door. And so we decided we're going to try something new as a community. And we are going to have on Halloween night, Bal Harbour Boogie Night right here. And we're not sure if it's going to be, it was depending on if Windermere is going to be available or not. It is. And so we will be here, and we hope to have a lot of fun. Information and invitations will be sent through Bal Harbour Bells and Bows and the residents, and also through Joy's email. And we will give you the details on that. It's in the planning stages still. Another thing that we hope is coming up is the choir director from Clear Lake High School contacted Joy about the situation and possibility of some of the choir coming in and leading Christmas caroling at Christmas time. We are very interested in this, and I'm waiting to hear back from the choir director, and I know they're very busy, so I'm giving them a little more time. And from my email, and in a few days, I will make a phone call to him, or I will go up to school since that's where I taught, and talk to him about how we can put this together. And once again, we would make this a holiday festivity for all of us in this community. So stand by. We want to have some fun here. My philosophy, even when I was teaching, is it has to be fun. So we're going to try to add some fun, but the first thing is less than a month away, October 1st, and you will be getting details.
So I'm gonna take this over.
Okay, while Fred's getting himself set up, I want to just remind you all, in our we have some rules and regulations basically about political signs and flags and that kind of thing. And I wanted to give you it's the Texas Property Code 259.001, if you're concerned about what can and cannot be put up. But the displays can be up for 90 days before an election and 10 days after an election. The other thing is we've gotten a few comments about the standby generators and Matt, I'm not sure what you call it. Test time, yeah. And we do have a bylaw that's related to the standby generators. It doesn't really address that issue. Are you saying yes, it does? Huh? It does? Okay. Okay. Are you all set? Okay.
Been trying to put together some information for everybody about the emergency bulkhead repair and our status and some background information. So this is a photograph Matt had taken, and you can see the old bulkhead on the lake side of the property. And we're near the point where the lake bulkhead turns and goes into the canal. That's on the left off the picture here. You probably recognize some of that if you've been over there. So the old bulkhead had 2 layers of sheeting. So the original sheeting you can see is deteriorated. To repair it, you can put a second row of sheeting behind it, which had been done. And then on top of it, it's hard to see, but there's kind of a reddish brown color on that 2. So the ends of the boardwalk, you can see the boardwalk sitting up on top of the bulkhead. So the 2x8's on end and the boardwalk is above it. So it's about 9 inches above the old bulkhead. So that'll be important later. The greenish piling is a repair. And the Payne brothers tell me they're actually still in pretty good shape. So the green piling is like an 8-inch diameter piling, 20 feet long. The old square post and the original post are old anyway. They're in very poor shape. So they're really not functioning anymore. So we're going to point out some of those things to you. And then the building behind it, off in the distance, is on the other side of the cul-de-sac. So in Hurricane Barrel, we actually had the top section of that bulkhead, about 12 feet of it came off and went all the way through the canal and wound up in the grass behind that building back there. So anyway, so here's a brief history of how we got here. So I'm just the messenger here. Many years ago, the Marina Committee review reported issues with the marina, and it needed repair also. And since then, the city of Nassau Bay has provided, I believe it's $100,000 grant for marina repairs, which we're using that money as we do the repairs. So then everyone noticed movement of the lakeside and the canal entrance bulkhead walkways. And so the fill behind the bulkhead was working out through the bulkhead into the lake or into the canal. And the posts that support the walkway were moving because the soil was settling. And so that got everybody's attention. The original plan for all of these repairs over the entire property was to build in front of the old bulkhead. So that's the quickest, fastest way to do it. Unfortunately, on the lake, you have to get approval from the Corps of Engineers, flood control, and you have to lease that space from the Texas General Land Office. So we actually leased the marina, and I didn't know this until recently, but we actually leased the space for the marina from the General Land Office. In order to build out a couple of feet into the lake, we would have to lease that portion of the lake forever once we did that. And then the permitting issues were taking forever. And Ralph is here if he wants to comment on that. He's welcome to. So the plan changed from build in front on the lake to a remove and replace project, where the contractor has to remove the old bulkhead sheet by sheet, piling by piling, put in a new bulkhead in its place with the same type of bulkhead. And so the reason for doing that is it's easy to get a building permit to do that. So that made it possible to do it on the lakeside. The plan has always been to do a building front. Once you get in the canal, and that property we own ourselves, we don't have to deal with the general land office, et cetera, but we still have to get permits, but we don't have to deal with the general land office. And as it's been pointed out recently, that means that when you do the building front, you lose about 2 feet to 2.5 feet because of the geometry of putting the new pilings and the bulkheads in place. So we'll get to that in a little bit. So now the emergency repair that we've been working with, I think most everybody knows, is 300 feet long. It's the section from the canal entrance moving east across the front of the lake. The Payne brothers are 2/3 of the way finished. They have about another 100 feet to go, and they had thought they'd be finished by mid-September, but now with the weather delays, they're looking towards the end of September before they'll be finished. So the funding for the emergency repair was $200,000 of existing association funds, and I told you where it was a minute ago. So looking back through the notes on this, 5 bids were obtained, with the Payne brothers being the least expensive and the highly experienced in our area. So they were selected. They've made it approximately 68% through the project, and they have all of the materials required to complete it on their barge right now. So here's a nice picture of the old bulkhead. So this is looking from a jet ski or boat. Maybe Matt, you might have taken this. Okay, yes. Matt took this. Looking towards the canal. So the canal entrance is from right to left, and this little finger pier with the ladder was destroyed or taken off in Hurricane Beryl. So most of that, or actually all of that, has been replaced. So you'll get some pictures of that in a minute. The thing to note again is that the old walkway is 9 inches above the bulkhead. And so you'll see in a minute that the new bulkhead is actually the 9 inches higher than the old one had been. So here's the picture of the new bulkhead. So I didn't have a jet ski, so I couldn't run out and take the same picture. But this is the most recent, fairly recent picture of the new bulkhead. So it's a little hard to see from this picture, but the new bulkhead is the 9 inches higher. So the top of that bulkhead is now where the boardwalk was. So the plan is to replace the boardwalk and have the ends of the boardwalk over. They won't overhang the bulkhead, but they will come over to the edge of the bulkhead. So the pilings are going to be exposed. We'll have a 4-foot walkway behind the bulkhead with the edges of the boards sitting on top of the bulkhead. The reason for not going out over the bulkhead is in a storm, you tend to rip off those decks, and it's bad enough when they go underwater and try to float off. But another interesting thing to note is the fill. So I'll show that a little bit better in a minute. So another thing to note is the Payne brothers, at their own cost, put these pilings in on 4-foot centers from the corner of the canal coming towards us in this picture. So they're on 4-foot centers until you get to that bend in the bulkhead that's near the edge of the picture. So about the first 100 feet, they did that at their own cost because they wanted additional strength in the entrance to the canal area next to the house over there. Also, these pilings are 10 inches in diameter, and they're 20 feet long, whereas the old ones were 8 inches in diameter and also 20 feet long. And you'll see a better picture in a minute, but the tie rods are welded to stainless steel rods that are then bolted onto the piling. There's a stainless steel washer, a big plate, and a stainless steel nut that holds that all together. So I think I have a picture of the weld coming up in a minute. So here's a good view that shows the old bulkhead on the left and the new bulkhead on the right. I don't know if you can see it that clearly, but there's a large piling, and there's a large piling that's the new 10-inch piling, and the new bulkhead off to the right with the fabric on it. And then the old bulkhead, you can see pieces of the old bulkhead wall down there. It was in really poor condition. So what I did want to explain was that when the old bulkhead was installed, the timbers were treated with a preservative. And at the time, the most you could get was 0.6 of a pound per cubic foot of the timber. So that's a chromated copper arsenic treatment that's no longer allowed above ground, but it's still allowed in the water environments like this. So of course, the old pilings were 8 inches, 20 feet long. The sheeting was 8 feet long. So the wooden boards that are forming the bulkhead were only 8 feet long. The new bulkhead is treated to CCA 2.5, so it has 4 times the treatment of the old bulkhead. And that should last twice as long as what I've been told and what I have read and researched. So the new pilings are 10 inches in diameter versus the 8. They're the same length, 20 feet. And the new ones are on 5-foot centers. And as I mentioned before, the Payne brothers went ahead and did 4-foot centers at their cost for the first 100 feet of the bulkhead. The sheeting we're using is 14 feet long instead of 8. And roughly 7 feet of it is in the ground. So the toe is roughly 7 feet deep. And you can have a toe failure if you don't go deep enough where the toe slides out into the lake. I've personally had that happen. That was not fun. And then the tie rods are 50 feet to 35 feet. So the requirement is, would like to go 50 feet under the soil, under the house if possible, a 35-foot minimum. And from what I've heard is they're typically close to 50 or at least 39 is what I'm hearing. Then of course the stainless steel sucker rods, plates, and nuts. Now the fill is interesting. So existing fill means the Payne brothers use their excavator to scoop out the fill that's behind the bulkhead now. They put it on the barge, repair the bulkhead, and then put it back. So that's existing fill. The select fill is a clay that Casey Ewing recommended we use. So it's a clay that's, you'll see in a minute, it's the orange colored typical clay you think of. So the plan is to use those materials for this type of construction. So if you were building in front, which we're not doing here, if you're building in front, the space is very narrow between the new bulkhead and the old bulkhead, and the crushed concrete type material is appropriate to use there because you can't get the clays and the existing fill to pack down in there very well. So when we get to the assessment work in the future, and you're building in front, the fill material will be the existing fill, the fill material there will be the aggregate concrete and select fill on top as the customer directs. So I haven't shown it to you yet, but another thing you want to do, here's a good picture of it. So this is a picture looking to the entrance of the canal, and I was measuring how much space we have in there. It's not a lot. You can see how the clay is almost to the very top of the bulkhead. So you want that fill to be very close to the top so that in a heavy rainstorm, the water goes over the top of the bulkhead. So there aren't any weep holes. You will get some water through the bulkhead, but you really want most of it going over the top. So when we put the boardwalk on, it'll be sitting in that clay, and the edges of the boards will be lined up on the edge of the bulkhead. Then this picture on the right is my 4-foot level. Just wanted to show you that the pilings out there really are on 4-foot centers. And if you could look at the bubble, it was right in the center. It was level out there. Yeah, they really have done an amazing job. It's scary watching them do it, but they've done an amazing job. So here's a picture of how scary it is. So removing the old sheeting, it comes out in pieces, and there's actually 3 sets of it. There's 2 in the existing bulkhead, the old sheets, the newer sheets, and then there was a 3rd set from a previous bulkhead up in there. And so I didn't get a good picture of them in the water, but one of their employees or workers really has to go in the water, put that chain around the pieces, and they pull it out one by one. And so that's why that's one of the reasons it's been taking so long, along with the weather problems. So the whole point of this discussion was to get to this change order. So I've been working with the group on a change order that really corrects some paperwork problems we had with the contract. And so there is a little bit of change in price that I'll get to in a minute, but it's pretty minor. So if you want to read through this, change number 1 is the project schedule. Obviously, they were late starting and they were going to be late finishing. So it had said, the contract had said, we want to start within so we want to be substantially completed within 100 days after the effective date of the contract, completed and ready for final payment within 120 days. That was the way it was worded. And so we're changing that to the work will be substantially completed within 171 days after the effective date of the contract and completed and ready for the final payment within 192 days after the effective date of the contract. So that's basically the end of September, another 10 days or so to pay the contractor once they've finished. So then the second change is the fill type. So the way the exhibit 1 had been written, the fill type was still specified as a concrete aggregate from the original plans to do a build in front. And when the plan got changed to a remove and replace, unfortunately that fill didn't get changed. So we're going to change the fill type for the remove and replace, which is what we're talking about here, from coarse gravel or crushed concrete with filter fabric to existing fill, which is what they dig out, put back, select fill, which is the clay they have to purchase and bring in. And then we've included existing bank sand with the filter fabric. So Casey Ewing was very helpful in trying to plan this. And he says that we put bank sand in after Hurricane Beryl to try to stabilize where the grass is going to go. And he's told us as long as we don't add any more, we can use that, mix it in with the clay, we'll be okay there. So change number 3, this one gets really interesting. Okay, so project location and specifications, exhibit 1 from the sheeting was incorrect on the exhibit 1 requirements that the homeowners association had put together. So unfortunately, the document we put together said sheeting 2-inch by 10-inch timber, 2.5 treated, which is the CCA 2.5, 16 feet long. So the actual number should have been 14 feet long, and that was a mistake in the document. So we're fixing that with this change order. Now it's kind of crazy. A couple of homeowners went on the barge without the Payne Brothers approval, and they started measuring the material, and they thought the material was too short, when in actuality, the Payne Brothers had the correct material. We just had the incorrect number in our document. So it's been a very, very strange month, can say the least. Yeah, so interesting. So now to get to the price change. So after the hurricane, the Payne Brothers brought in select fill, and to do that, they have a friend who has an empty lot about 2,000 feet down the lake. They have to take the barge to that lot. They have to bring the fill in on a truck across the neighbor's or friend's lot, and they can't do that on a rainy day because of the soil and the grass in the lot. So they have to wait for it to be dry. They have to wait for the fill to be dry to purchase it and bring it to the barge, put it on the barge, bring the barge back to the job site, unload it, and put it in. So after the hurricane, they got to do that twice. And so we've been discussing back and forth how much it costs to change from the crushed concrete to the select fill. And the material itself is pretty inexpensive. The select fill is actually a little cheaper than the crushed concrete. But the labor and the time of going down the lake and getting it, and bringing it back to the work site is really more expensive than the material. So they agreed to like $200. It's going to cost us $200 more because of putting the material in after the hurricane. So that's why instead of 200,000, it's now 220,000. I'm sorry, $200,200 if we approve this. Okay, so have I lost everybody? Okay, I'm trying. Okay, so the price change actually does go up by $200 if everybody agrees to that. Well, so it was 300 until this morning. So yeah, we discussed it again this morning and Artie agreed, okay, 200 is fair. We'll just do 200. So that's what, so the old version of this had 300 there. That's why. So what I'd like to see before I finish talking is a motion to approve this change order. In a second, we'll have the discussion and we'll do that vote. But before we do that, I've got some more cost information to share. And this is really in preparation for talking about the assessment repair. So this is background for that. So we can do the vote right now, or you can wait till I finish, however you want to do it. No, wait till I finish? Okay. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Last page. So on the right-hand side of the last page is the Payne Brothers proposal from February 1st. And it's hard to read, I know, but I put it in there. So if we had to, we could look at it. So what I'm trying to explain is how much this cost. So it's a remove and replace, which is expensive. I was trying to show you that it's also very invasive. So they have to have room for the crew to get in there and pull out the old sheeting. They have to take the excavator, push against the bank and stabilize the bank to be sure it doesn't collapse on the guys while they're doing it. Then they have to have room to weld the sucker rod to the tie rod in there also. So it's a very invasive and expensive process. So they charged $50,000 to remove the old bulkhead. So that's 300 feet. That's $167 a foot to remove it. And then the new wooden bulkhead was $150,000. So that's $500 a foot to replace with the new wooden bulkhead, which is a lot better than the old wooden bulkhead, just to remind you. Now, they did propose vinyl. So to do vinyl with our houses this close to the bulkhead, it has to have a wooden structure. As the weight of the houses on moist soil, say we had a tropical storm sit over us for a week, like happens occasionally. Once the soil's saturated, the weight of the building is pushing out on the bulkhead. And if you just try to do vinyl without the structure, it would fail. So it has to have a wooden structure. The wooden structure is going to fail eventually. So I don't know. But if you want to do vinyl, it was another $45,000 for the 300 feet. We don't have the $45,000, so nobody seriously entertained that this time. That would have been another $150 a foot if we'd done that. So the cost to do the remove and replace on the lakefront is roughly $667 a foot. And if we used vinyl, it would have been $817 a foot. Okay, so keep those numbers in mind when we talk about the assessment work in the canal. So now it's time for the vote. Anybody want to make a motion that we accept the change order?
Yes.
Okay.
Payne Brothers for the.
So a second. I'm gonna do Jan's job for her. So Dwayne seconds, and I'm going to abstain. So you guys vote all you want. Any more discussion?
You want me to move fast? No, I would. Okay. Okay. Can we have a vote? This is a yes vote. Okay.
I'm abstaining.
You're
So I'm abstaining. I'm abstaining.
Okay. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. All right. Got that done. So one more thing. Now, quickly, I wished I could tell you, I'm going to move on to the assessment discussion. I wish I could tell you that we had a signed contract, but we're getting close. So the contract has been modified, adjusted. We've worked on it, and we've finally sent it to the attorneys for review. So we should hear back from them pretty quickly on the contract for the assessment work. Now, the intent of the assessment work for the rest of it's roughly 1,847 feet, I think is the number. Yeah, 74, thank you. So the intent is to build in front. It's cheaper, it's quicker, it's less invasive. It's not totally non-invasive. So every piling will have a sucker rod going back into the ground under the building. And to get that in there, the contractor has to take a sheet or two of the old bulkhead off so they can reach in there and put that rod in. They don't have to take the entire bulkhead out. So they'll build 2 feet, 2.5 feet. It depends on how straight the old bulkhead is. And it'll be a much faster process than what we've been through on the remove and replace. It's also cheaper. So the numbers that we've been looking at that we base the special assessment on is about $460 a foot if you do a build-in front. So the plan is to do that. It's less expensive than we've been spending on the remove and replace. The downside is you do lose 2 feet of the canal width. And most of the work we're going to do, that's not an issue, but the entrance to the canal and the canal width is an issue. So the Payne brothers and I have discussed this, and they said, well, you can do it once, but 40 years from now, you're going to have to pull it out and replace it instead of doing it again, because the canal just get too narrow. And I think everybody knows that if you have a boat lift in that canal work area, the Payne brothers the owner is responsible for removing it and reinstalling it if they want to. So the owner will have to have the boat lift mechanism removed. The Payne brothers have given us a price to remove the pilings and then put them back if the owner wants them put back for the boat lift. So if I remember right, removing it's $150 a piling, and putting them back is $500 a piling. But I don't know yet if that includes the piling or that's just the labor to install it. I'll have to ask them that. And then if the owner wants their boat lift put back, it'll be put back up on top of those pilings, and the whole thing will be out in the canal a couple of feet from where it is now. So that raises a couple of issues. When they're doing the work, the barge is really big. And so they've told me they're going to have to measure, see how much width is left for boats to pass while the barge is in there. The small boats will probably be able to pass between we don't know for sure yet. I'm thinking the small boats might be able to get through there. The larger boats are probably going to have to move to the marina for the period of time we're in the canal entrance. So that's it's 250 feet. It's a built-in front, which is quicker. So we don't know yet just how long that will be, maybe a month. The large boats would need to be over in the marina. The smaller boats can probably get in and out, we hope. They've told me that they move the barge out into the lake at night. So I don't know if that really helps anybody because you want to use your boat in the daytime. So it probably doesn't help. And they don't work on the weekends. So they would have the barge out in the lake on the weekends. That would help. So that's kind of all I know at the moment. Any questions? You guys want to ask any questions while we're talking about it?
Jim Gaines, Sandy Cove. Only, you said you have referred the contract to attorney, was that our attorney? Yeah. In talking to him over the last contract, we never got a written response from him as far as his reviewing. And I would think that this is a contract, we really need a contract attorney. And I would like to have myself, I think that a risk assessment would be something that we needed on this contract with workers' comp. And I'm no lawyer, by any means. That's why we need I think we need a lawyer to look at it, because with the workers' comp rules, as I understand them, once we go by, and I think Payne Brothers has a $2 million liability. I think it's a 1 million per incident. Is that correct?
So that was done before I got on the board. But I think you're correct. I think you're correct. So the emergency repair contract has a $3 million, if I remember right. It's 3 million and 1 million. And the version we sent to the attorney is 5 million and 2 million. We're gonna get the Payne Brothers to price that. That's not how they based their proposal, but we want to see what the difference in cost is between that versus what we have now. And certainly raised an excellent question. Mark, do you want to try to help this? You want to help answer this question about the liability insurance and the workman's compensation insurance? Who's the best person to answer that?
Thank you. Hey, Jim. So I think right now what we're doing is pricing 5 million aggregate, 2 million per occurrence. We're upgrading that from 2 million and 1 million. Anyway, we're getting the price.
But we're
for
gonna
that.
pay for that, not the
Yeah,
contract.
no, we would be paying, if we decide it's an option, we're gonna get the price. So if, that's on us. I mean, the premium to get more insurance is just a pass through from that contractor. But there's no reason why we shouldn't ask them for what that is to see if, from a, like you said, a risk perspective, maybe it's worth the extra money. It may not be that much. It's worth looking at though.
Well, what concerns me is when we go past their liability, they've given us an indemnity for what's over that. Well, if we don't know what their economic situation is, so they could file bankruptcy. So we're limited to whatever their liability coverage is, and then it comes into our liability. And if it comes into our liability, I think we should have our insurance company look at this contract also before we accept it, because they could be involved. And I'm not a booger hunter, but I can see where we're leaving ourselves open to some liability.
Yeah, we have a couple things we do, features on this contract. It's a really pretty good sized contract for bulkhead project.
$800,000.
And yeah, and it does have a very strong indemnification clause in there that holds us harmless. The other thing it's got that I think is some pluses on this particular contract. The way it's going to be permitted in 500-foot sections, right? 500 feet per phase. So we've got from a liability perspective, we've got individual phases. If there's performance issues, we've got easy cutoff points to terminate work. The contract itself has termination for cause, for convenience. It gives us all the termination rights that protect us if there's a performance problem from the contractor. So a lot of
It's not really a bond, but we just can stop.
yeah, we don't have the bond, but we could stop from a risk perspective. We could just stop it on a dime if we wanted to, and our exposure in they have to go get another permit for the next 500 feet each section. So it gives us a pretty good mechanism to,
What I'm concerned about is the liability if someone were to get hurt, which we certainly don't know. But when we get into the court system, without workers' compensation, there is no limit. With workers' compensation, as I understand, everything on your body has a number on it, price tag. And without workers' comp, we're open to the court system. And if it goes past their liability and our liability, where does that leave us as homeowners?
Yeah, I know I've been involved in some of that in the past, and what happened, at least in the situations I was in, as the owner, operator, we pulled the indemnification clause on those, on the contractor. It had a third party, had an injury, personal injury, and whether they got, workman's comp, even if they got workman's comp piece, we were still exposed. But because we had strong indemnification, they had to defend us, and we had to still go to court, but we didn't
keep you from getting sued.
We didn't have any, exposure like we could have.
If we go past Payne Brothers Insurance, we're into their personal liability. And we've never checked their finances. Are they going to step up or just file bankruptcy and then let our insurance take over?
Yeah.
You know, I think what I'm saying is I would like for us to investigate some of this stuff before we approve the contract.
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah, yeah,
thank you.
I think it's good. Yeah.
Is there any other discussion? Any comments? I think we'll adjourn the meeting. Yes,
Testing generator time. If it's from 8:30 a.m. to 6:30 p.m. So that's when you're supposed to test the generators.
okay.
In the bylaw, all day long. Agents will know which, if you want to test it or have it, come on, do it between 8:30 and 6:30 p.m.
Okay,
So we can sleep.
thank you.
Night, night.
Okay. I'm going to adjourn the meeting now. The meeting's adjourned.
And when's the next executive meeting or whatever y'all call it here? You have it scheduled?
No, they don't have one scheduled.
Because it sure would be great if you guys had like a calendar so we could cut. I mean, but I'm in charge of the calendar. No, but yeah, I mean, I'm happy to do it.
There was a few of us that were expecting to make comments tonight.
Do what?